Viewers, good day, and let we talk about plotting the program's objectives, learning objective versus the program learning outcomes. And these are usually for a new beginners. You see, they are mostly mm, uh, faces some difficulties. But plotting all these things in perspective of when Bloom's taxonomy, it's very interesting, and it carries you to a high level of applicability of knowledge. You see, there are three domains of learning, which will be clear in the next part of the slides. But let me say about that learning objectives and learning outcomes. What is the main difference? The main difference is that the learning objectives are the expected accomplishment of a graduate in a particular programs. Remember, these are the expected accomplishment, mean when the students will come at the entry level, if a particular program like this is MD program or pharmacy program, you see. So what the student will do at the entry level, when he's supposed to learn something, then that the learning objectives are at the entry levels. But when the teacher comes and perform different learning intervention, you see, in different learning environments, like he used the strategy of PBL, he used the strategy of didactic lecturing, or what you can say, cognitivism approach, or as the case may be, whether that is case-based learning, task-based learning, self-directed learning, directed learning, whatever the strategy is being adopted by the tutor, you see. So then the student learns something, and once the student learns something, you see, then he is at the exit level. Remember, outcome of a program, it describes the capability of a graduate that once he is exposed to certain type of experimentation or in the learning environment, and that gives him a particular level of competence. Remember, level of competence. In other words, the learning outcome describes the ability of a graduate. Therefore, when you are working as an auditor in a particular program, you will just see that what is the blanket statement written about the objectives, and the objectives of the program are two. So then it will start with the action words. You see, so it means that the student or the graduate is at this entry level, and once the teacher performs certain level of interaction, you see, intervention, so the student gains certain level of knowledge, and he is in a position of different level of competence, you see. So it means the student has been able to perform certain tasks. Therefore, the blanket statement for the outcome will be that the graduate, upon completion of the program, the graduate shall be able to mean that now that particular graduate has gained a particular level of competence, you see. So this is the basic difference between the learning objectives and the learning outcomes. Therefore, it is very imperative that there should be an alignment between these objectives and the outcome. And this is usually sorted out during the audit to the particular regulatory bodies that will come and audit your programs. Now, having said that, let we just summarize it, that what are objectives. So objectives are your intent. Objectives are the intents for the students, and it is settled by whom? It is settled by the tutors. It is settled by the expert of the curriculum in the curriculum, you see. And then for program like medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, physiotherapy, nursing, or as paramedical sciences, you see, there should be different level of objectives, and there will be, of course, learning outcomes as well. What is the main objective? The main objective is to give them a purposeful education. And how it can be obtained? It can be obtained through filing a SMART objective, stand for specific, measurable, achievable, reliable, and timetabled. And if it is not timetabled, keep in mind, then the objective is not SMART. For example, a graduate comes and gets admission in a 5-year MD programs, in a 5 years MD program or MBBS program, 5 years. and he completes it in 7 years, you see, and the program is 5 years, you see. So this student is not smart. So another example of smart is that classical case, general case of appendectomy is there, and one surgeon performed this surgery in 30 minutes, and the other surgeon performed in 50 minutes, where the allocated time, both are normal cases, and the allocated time is usually for 30 minutes, you see. Then surgeon 1 is more smart than surgeon 2, though both of them perform the task, the surgery, appendectomy, but one took more 20 minutes more, and it means he's not smart as much the surgeon 1 is. So your objective should be smart for the programs, and of course it should be for the course file as well. So here keep in mind that there are 3 learning domains, and one is the cognition, and the other is the affective domain, and the third one is the psychomotor. Very interestingly, you see, let me draw the common lines for this particular circles. So you can see this is the common lines, and this common mean that in the cognition level, you see, and in the affective domain and the psychomotor domain, skill domain, there is overlapping, and this overlapping means this is the commonality. It is very astonishing that sometimes when the students being asked or the teacher being asked to frame objectives, course objectives or program objectives for a particular program, for example, so what they do, they look in a very close and tight involvement. For example, when they are asked to make certain objectives of the cognitive domain, you see, so what they do, so cognitive domain mean is relates to knowledge. So what they do, they usually relate to knowledge, and they are not focusing on the skills or the affective domain. Or sometimes you see, for the skills there is a level of some particular level of knowledge is very important, and even for affectation, a particular level of knowledge of the other person that is sitting in front of you, of his her personality, is very important. Therefore, it does not mean that a cognitive domain, once you are filing, will be favorably related to knowledge, but rather to behave as a human being or a living being, you must have your personality is a blend of cognition, is a blend of skills that you gain, and is a blend of affective domain. Therefore, what is important in certain curriculums, you see, the more this overlapping is of these domains, the more is the integration of that particular curriculum, you see. So if this is cognition and this is psychomotor skills, you see, and this is the, what you can say, the third domain is the affective domain. So there should be and there is an integration of all these three domains, and the more this overlapping area, the more understanding and the level of competence of a graduate will be. Keep in mind this point. You cannot teach cognition in isolation, and you cannot teach the affective domain in isolation from cognitive domain or psychomotor domains. All these three parts that constitutes the personality of a graduate. This is a technical point to remember. Therefore, when there is a balanced approach of all these three domains, you see, then it leads to professionalism. Thus, the more this overlapping is, the more will be the professionalism approach in the graduates. Now, coming back to the slide, you see, if for an MPhil program of the basic medical sciences, if you are asked to frame certain program objectives, so this objective number first is, you can see that provide the student a main objective of the MPhil programs are two. provide the student with advanced knowledge in day-to-day practices of area of basic medical sciences, and start with action verbs and advanced knowledge. You see, it's related to the knowledge. So it is from the cognitive domain. And when the second objective is being framed, that is strengthen the psychomotor skills. Is directly related to this particular domain, the second domain, that is psychomotor. And the third objective is that make the student practical for identify ethical situations and make decision accordingly. Remember, it is ethical situations, so it directly goes and relates to the affective domain, because it is the ethics and the equity that take care of the other person sitting in front of you, either as an attendant of the patient, either as a patient himself, or your professional colleague, or as the case may be. It depends upon the particular environment in which you are going to practice. Now, objective number 4 is, if you look at this objective number 4, then the MPhil program are to give students knowledge regarding the design of health and related problems to contribute support to society and the community at large. You see, the student must have. So it's related to a research level objective, you see. And when it comes to outcome, you see, so outcomes for this objective number 4 will be that to formulate research problem and conduct research thereafter independently. So you see, it gives a certain level of competence to that he gains in this particular level, the knowledge of basic day-to-day problems, research-related problem, and then when he is expected to that particular environment in the laboratory, you see, so that particular person graduates has gained a particular level of competence, and the level of competence is that he can conduct research thereafter independently. And what the research? The research is problem solver research, a purposeful research, and here is also he is to be thought about the day-to-day related problem. So there is an alignment between the objective and the outcome. Keep in mind this point. You can find this objective number 1 and this outcome number 1, because to transform the knowledge into practices based as a clinical, what you can say. So my point is that transfer the knowledge into practices based on the clinical skills gained at a workplace based or laboratory. That may be in the clinics, or that may be in the, what you can say, in the laboratory, you see. So, and this is how he will gain the skills of psychomotor domain related to the to incorporate the knowledge into practices, you see. And apply the techniques for objective number 2. They applied the outcome number 2, that apply the techniques acquired through knowledge in the field of basic medical sciences. You see, here he get the knowledge, you see, and research related application, knowledge regarding that, and then here he is going to apply that. So this here he get the automation. Now, nevertheless, as we progress, things will become obvious. But important point on this slide is that there is an alignment between the objective and the outcome. Now, this is a classical slide, Pressman Bloom's taxonomy, and that is the cognition, knowledge, and then the comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. And as time passed, then they use in perspective of their noun, or what you can say, the actioning. This is in the actioning so that they can remember. The student, for example, knowledge is related to remembering, comprehension for better understanding. Once you comprehend, it means that you have understanding, and application, of course, is applying, and then analysis as analyzing, and synthesis as evaluation, and of course, you see, then they change this particular level of this cognition, and ultimately they targeted the creativity, because it is the creativity that is the at least ultimate end of a particular level of knowledge that you have regarding a particular problem. So remembering, they describe this in the new domain in the perspective of a phenomenology or processing. You see, remembering, understanding, applying, and analyzing, and of course, evaluating with ultimate and creativity. So this is different level of cognition, you see, and level 1 is related to knowledge. This is a replica of the previous slide, and you see we here I have used certain action verbs that you have to stop with action verb in framing the objectives. So for knowledge, you see, remember a technical point for this in this slide is that you have to remember the definition, you see, and these definitions are very important because in single sentence I have rephrased for you the logic behind it. For example, if related to knowledge, so knowledge means it's something related to the material learned, and it's related to the recall. Regarding comprehension mean that the students get a particular level of understanding. And remember, this is a low level of understanding. This is a technical point. In case of application of the cognitive level 3, you see the definition describes that the students gets a higher level of understanding, and the best word applying this higher level of understanding is or these action verbs for Bloom's taxonomy, like apply, illustrate. A student can only illustrate if he has a high level of understanding of a particular problem. Similarly, analysis, you see, and in the category of C4 level of analysis, you see, the definition is best rephrased in the wording that analysis means that the students or the graduate can understand both the content and the structure of the material. So it is ahead than this application, you see. So here the word analyze is there, categorize is there, compare and contrast is there, differentiate is there, and discriminate. Why? If he knows and this particular application, then he can compare and contrast and differentiate. Similarly, it relates to the synthesis, and regarding the synthesis, you see, the definition is narrative is that formulate the new structure of existing knowledge and skill. So it gives a high level of cognition, and it means it can combine, construct, design, develop, generate, plan, and purpose, and for particular purposeful work. For example, a student is having a particular level of knowledge regarding recording an electrocardiogram, and then of different leads, single lead ECG, 12 lead ECG, electrocardiogram. So you see, then he is having a particular knowledge that which particular lead is related to. Some there are precordial leads, you see, and then the chest leads, and that he knows about all these things. There is one earth lead. So this is something knowledge related to this, and then he knows that which particular lead is placed at which particular position, and then he knows the cardiac axis dimension, and if there is an inversion of T wave, you see, or right axis deviation, left axis deviation, or whatever the case is. So that is how he is going to analyze that particular situation and synthesize a particular problem. For example, there is a left axis deviation, so he thinks that it's approached to the left heart failure, or in case of right heart failure in an electrocardiogram, there is a right axis deviation. And this is how, because based on her knowledge, he understands. So what is important to understand is the creativity is the final stage, and the best narrative for this one is that he can judge the values of material and for a given purpose. And remember, for a given purpose, this is important. And once that given purpose target is achieved, so it leads to creativity. So in certain slides, you can find that the Bloom's taxonomy, they have in revised Bloom's taxonomy here, they have referred to as the creativity. So you shall not be confused with that. And I have plotted for you what you have to remember while plotting these particular program objectives. You must be quite vigilant about all these definitions. You see, you have to remember these definitions, and once you are remembering these definition narrative purpose should be narrative, and the purpose should be clear. That remember, that should be clear to you. And once it is clear to you, then you can simply instill particular action verb. And here I have taken this what you can say slide from internet, and they have used different action verb keywords, you see, for this particular level. This is for the what you can say uh, knowledge, and for comprehension. These are the keywords, and you can easily understand, and you can easily get that from what you can say this particular slide. Nevertheless, this slide also describes that which particular words are used in the context of action mean objectives and in the context of outcome. But this will confuse you, not to understand. There, just read this slide to the level of this particular keywords. Remember, just to help you. This is very high level slide, and you can use this for the questioning, like more MAQs and short answer question. Which particular questioning you will be going to use it, but I hope now you should ignore at this stage. So what is important to understand is that one should know that how these objectives and outcomes are framed and aligned in different accreditation bodies pro forma. Usually it is asked in the self-assessment report, like in Higher Education Commission of Islamabad, when they are using different standards. So they ask for the self-assessment report, like Saudi Council or Ministry of NCAAA, you see, Saudi regulatory body. Their name is SSRP. So whatever the name and the expression is, but the main key point is that the program objectives shall be aligned with the program outcomes. For example, objective number 1 contributes to which particular level of outcome. That's objective number 1. There may be a particular outcome of the program which is so strong that will encompass the objective number 1, the objective number 2, like this objective outcome number 2 is. For example, if I carry you back to the objective number, this outcome number 2, apply the techniques required to the Niaz in the field of basic medical sciences, you see here. So this outcome number 2 is so wide that it's going to grasp the objective number, this 1, and objective number 3, objective number 2. So this is very important, especially once you will be plotting. Why this is important? This is important as a guide for the teacher and for the auditor, so that because at certain level of a particular course file, sometimes we are given the outcomes, but the objective being framed here by the concerned teachers are not encompassing a certain level of outcome. For example, if there is an outcome number 5, and this outcome number 5 is not being covered by any of the objective. You see, if this objective number 5 is there, 4 is there, and 4 also falls within the domain of this particular outcome number 3. So how you can cover this outcome number 5 through which particular objective, you see. So if in your course file such an objective does not exist, which is not going to cover this particular outcome number 5, then it means that your students will not get a particular level of mastery points, you see. This is technical, very technical. Once you will be asked to go for assessment. For example, this is year 1, and you are in different blocks. Of the curriculum, you see. And this blocks of the curriculum, this is the time duration, you see. And for every block, remember, you have to determine the mastery points, mastery levels. And these mastery levels are in fact the competence graduates, you see. And if a particular mastery point, for example, here is this, and here are the two mastery points, here is the one mastery point, here is the one mastery point, and here is the two mastery point. And if any objective is not being there to cover this particular level of mastery point, if this such an objective does not exist to cover this particular level of mastery point, it means that the outgoing graduates from year 1 to year 2 will not be enough competent, you see, then he cannot go ahead, or there will be some deficiency in his her knowledge. Thus, the objectives must be sometime aligned with the course contents as well. Why with the course contents? Because it is the course contents that is being taught, and the students being aligning with this course contents and the objective, so that they can have a basic knowledge of this particular level of understanding and related to the objectives. Now, let me proceed. How to use objectives? You see, as we have already discussed but this slide describes that a particular outcome may be so much wide. It may be so much wide, so much broad. You see, an outcome that it can encompass objective number 1, objective number 2, and objective number 3. And that is why the learning outcomes give the competence, because the broader the outcome, the more the level of competence the student will gain it. Remember, but you have to assess the students for this at high level of understanding or high level of performance. You see, as per the Miller's pyramid, which is not the domain of this lecture. Thus, usually students, when they are being taught by different teachers, so you see, here we need a teacher to be a role model, and a teacher should not only be the information provider, he should be a resource developer for the student, he should be a good planner, he should be an assessor to assist the student. Of course, he should be the facilitation, there should be facilitation, and the teacher should be a role model as well. And this 6 further contributes to each 2. For example, he will be a lecturer, and that particular tutor will also be, you can say, a practical teacher as well. And if he is related to a clinical or medical field, then he will be a clinical teacher as well. And I have usually asked the students that, so you want to become teacher? So mostly the students say in the medicine program, no, I want to become clinician, or in the pharmacy they want to say, I want to be a clinical pharmacist, you see, or clinical nursing practitioner. So why? What is it? Why you don't like to be a teacher? Remember, you will always be a teacher, no matter you practice in the clinical setting, or you practice in the basic sciences, or you practice elsewhere. Also, so a good clinician should be a good teacher as well. Thus, a resource developer, he is creating the resource material and providing study guides to the students, and he plans the curriculum. Also, his teacher is also course organizer, and he assists the students and the curriculum as well. And you see, then he is a mentor, he is learning facilitator. Consequently, he is also a role model as a teacher, and not only a role model in the teacher, but he is a role model on the job. This is an area that we should focus, because if we are able to instill all these things at this in our students, so role model, for that the teacher should himself will be our model. Now, this is not easy, you see. One should be emotionally so much intelligent to self-regulate himself, because he has to come across with different level of knowledge of students, and of course, every student is having a different personality profile. And you know what is personality? Personality is the sum of observable and non-observable character. And for that, the teacher should be so much emotionally intelligent to deal with different types of students of different personality profile. We can have a lecture on that, this understanding your colleagues, which is not the domain of this lecture. Thus, This is an example of course specification form, which is apart from the curriculum, you see, and that we are going to use it in Heaven Medical University, Peshawar, and for MPhil program. And it's usually having just, and these are informatics, and then these are the related to the details, again informatics, and there are some learning objective, intended learning outcomes, and you see, and then knowledge and understanding, and then the intellectual skill related domain, and then you see professional skills domain, and that professional skill domain means that how he will behave as a professional person in his her career, and general transferable skills, you see. Different universities use different formats. You shall not be confused with that. Keep in mind, but then the contents being covered and being to be taught, and that should be aligned with objectives and the learning outcomes. And then, of course, the assessment schedule and the student assessment methods are there, and their breakup, their schedule, and the percentile, percentage, monos distribution, and of course the recommended books. So thus, course specification file is a guide for the students and for the teacher. And if your file is complete, if no matter a teacher leaves within the in between, then he can easily transform, come and replace the previous one. So in nutshell, I have taken some. You can go and have my previous lecture on learning outcome and learning domains. This is very important. And regarding Bloom taxonomy, I have taken from this site, and ethically, if I have taken a slide from some site, so I must reference, I must cite that. I hope now understand that how to plot learning outcomes versus learning objectives, and how the Bloom taxonomy will work. Remember, do not plot the Bloom taxonomy in perspective of cognition only. As I refer to, it is the cognition, and it is the affective domain, and it is the psychomotor domains that covers one another, that overlap one another, that constitute the total behaviorism or the professionalism approach of a particular graduates. I hope now you understand the concept behind framing program objectives and learning outcome. Thank you very much.